this is the way we're looking at these ratings, guys. Is it's not directly comparing everyone against everyone and off a set. You do this, you get 1 point, whatever. The way we're looking at it is effort, consistency, based on exceeding the expectation or exceeding what, delivering more than we expected. Yeah, man. So let's jump on to these. Start out with the backs player ratings, eh?
Yep.
First up, Charnze Nicoll-Klokstad, bro. What do you give him for a rating out of 10? And I'm just going to, this is the way we're looking at these ratings, guys, is it's not directly comparing everyone against everyone and off a set. You do this, you get 1 point, whatever. The way we're looking at it is effort, consistency, based on exceeding the expectation or exceeding what, delivering more than we expected. So we're not directly comparing Charnze against Tuaupiki, right? They're two different guys, so we'll look at them differently. And it's not a scientific ranking. This is just the way we feel about it. So, and we're biased Warriors fans. So, what do you reckon about Charnze, bro? What was your rating out of 10, and what are some of the things you think he's done well, and if there's anything you think he could improve on?
Look, I gave him 8.5, and the reason I gave him that is because it's come from last year. We loved Reese's attacking ability, but we were so angry as fans the way he leaked points at the back there.
Yeah.
And so we all asked for a defensive-minded fullback that could shore up the defense. And I think Charnze has done that overall. There have been times where he's been called out, and you look at Perham on the weekend and you say, okay, we're lucky to have Charnze compared to some of the fullbacks that are going around. But you got to say that overall his impact on the team has been really significant within the Webster system. So I think coming from that as a fan and knowing what happened last year and seeing the change now at the fullback position, I've given him an 8.5. But yeah, I just think he's having his career best. I've looked at his numbers. He's close to one of his career best. I know 2019, 2020 was his good years at Canberra. His numbers are close to those. But yeah, I just got to say he's been what we've needed. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think I listened to his interview. I think it was Jake Duke or or maybe it was Vossi. They did an interview with him about leaving Canberra and coming back here.
Yeah.
And the guy's literally in tears saying, man, I didn't want to leave here. They've done so much for me. He goes, but when I sit there and looked in my son's eyes, he said, Daddy, when are you going to come back and live with us?
Yeah.
And he said, but it was like a point in time for him to realize it was perfect to come back to his home. And I was always disappointed he left and they didn't try him in the centres or on the wing, because the few games I saw him with the Warriors back in the day, you could just see he had something.
Yeah.
But when he came back, it's like as soon as I heard they kind of announced Charnze before they announced Reece, right? Or it was pretty much simultaneous. I'm like, yep. Because I know Reece Walsh will turn out to be a superstar of the game.
Yeah.
But I didn't like his attitude. He was very selfish. He was very emotive, both on and off the field.
Great.
And I don't feel like that. We don't have the culture to sort of control that. It needed to be a big club for him. So I was disappointed the way he left. But, man, I was so stoked to have Charnze. And similar to you, I wrote 8, but you're right. I mean, and the only reason I did this is because I feel like, similar to RTS back in the day, sometimes he tries to do too much. He does. You'll see him. He'll take the ball off a kick. He'll run 20 metres, get tackled, and then he'll be the third runner again. Yes. And I think that fatigue sometimes means he just can't quite react fast enough, particularly when we get 3 guys caught up in the ruck. He'll get the numbers wrong and he just can't quite get across. Yep. And, you think about what he saves or creates in order to get that tired, it far outweighs it. But, that's just one little thing for me. It's just like, oh, man, if you could just get that a little bit right. I think
I get you.
We're one or two tries different a game. So, but I couldn't have asked for more from him. And we're a different team when he's out there.
I think that effort that he's putting in, it's diminishing in other areas because I think support play has been really poor. Like
Yeah.
line breaks, we've had no one on the end of them to help.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I correlate that probably with his effort to do these hit ups, to help the forwards out. But you got to pick your moments because we do need better support play. And so
Yeah.
I would probably be with you in giving him around 8 as well. But I'm just
Yeah.
kind of giving that thing from last year as well,
Oh, for
just
the
to
effort.
top
I
it
mean, I
off.
wanted to give
Yeah.
him like 9.5 or something, but I thought,
Yes.
there are a couple of players we'll get to later on that I've given higher marks, and I kind of just wanted to. I feel like there's a couple of players that have not, a couple in particular who haven't made mistakes, right? So I had to give
Nah.
a bit of a buffer there, but yeah, awesome. How about so he played nine out of the 11 games. So we've got
Yep.
Tuaupiki who played 2 games. A little bit harder to rate him, but just on what you saw from him, but also maybe on what you've seen from him in the few games we've seen of Cup.
Well, he technically played only 1A because he was on the bench for 2. What was it? Was it
I
1?
think he got. I think he played 2.
Oh,
Oh,
he did
he's
get on.
written
Yeah,
his
he got
paper.
on.
Yeah,
Yeah, he got on for 1. Oh, the Cowboys game, I thought it was brilliant. Um, I think I'm gonna give him a 7, but you want to give him more. I think he's got a lot of potential. If we do see him again, I really want to see his full package.
yeah,
I thought that he was a big part in a subtle way of that Cowboys win. That was probably our best win up till that point. Um, his link play was quite good. For a small guy, he can find creases, man. He reminds me of that
yeah.
kid Bowen. What was it? Yeah, who's the kid at?
Matt Bowen. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's good mates with him. Campbell. What's Campbell? The one at the Titans? Campbell's son, Preston Campbell's son.
Campbell.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But they're kind of
That's
that
it.
similar, like slithery, small fullback. But every
Yeah.
time he did a hit up, I was impressed.
Kevin Lott.
He found a
Yeah.
crease, like he found a little gap, and he got on his fronts. He never got dominated
Yeah.
in terms of like getting dragged back. That's an art form. That's a skill to be able to do at the fullback, and if you're undersized, especially. But defensively, he was in the right
Yeah.
places at the right time too. So I want to give
Yeah.
him, but he's only played 1 or 2 games, so I've given him
See,
7
I'd
just so
like to
that
get.
yeah.
Yeah. Because he's still got a long way to go. And imagine if we had him out there for 3 or 4 weeks in a row with our top team, with
Yes.
particularly next year with like another creative guy at centre there in RTS. And I think the difference between him and Charnze is like Charnze doesn't really ever give me the impression he's about to break it open and score a try or just do this
Yeah.
amazing pass. But Tuaupiki, he's got some of that, a lot of Reece Walsh in him. He's got the same explosive speed, he's got the same
Yes.
pass, and he combines really, really well with Volkman in the cup. So yeah, I went 7 with him as well. But it's just my biggest hope is he's patient, right?
Be
Because,
patient, bro. Yeah.
but I think he's already about 22, 23, isn't he?
That's
Not
still young,
100%
even
sure.
if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can play as a fullback probably into mid-30s if you get it right.
yeah.
Yeah, no major
Because
injuries.
I would say you wouldn't imagine Charnze would have too many years left in him just because of the way he plays the game. Um,
Yeah.
so I just hope he's patient because he was the Q Cup Player of the Year. A lot of clubs would have been surprised we got him, and we'll probably be knocking on guys like him and Volkman's door. We've got a couple of people in front of them, so yeah.
Yeah, no, I
Hopefully he
agree.
stays.
I
All right,
really hope to. I really do. Yep.
Dallin Watene-Zelezniak.
Yep.
How'd you go with him, man?
I've given him a 7. Um, I'll probably even give him 7.5. I thought his game last week was really good. He had a lot of carries that were just really helped us get on the front foot. I think he's slowly working his way back into this team and system from coming back from injury. He did an admirable job, I thought, at fullback. Against the Roosters, not the greatest, but I think the issue everyone has with him is his paycheck, eh? And they're calculating his effort based on his paycheck,
Yeah.
and I can understand that, but I think I've given him a 7. I want to see more volume from him. The only thing I noticed in his stats is that his defensive numbers, tackle efficiency is in the 65%,
It was down at
which is
61 for a while there, too.
well, yeah. Well, there you go,
Uh,
and that's way. I get the wingers do more of a guesswork, but Kosi's numbers are up around the 79, 80s,
yeah.
and
So,
Montoya's are as well. Well, yeah, Montoya's mid 70s, but
yeah.
61's too low. You got to say that's not.
And I
Yeah,
think they came up because when he went to fullback, I think he was making better reads. But it's just, I don't know whether it's a communication thing, but we've seen a few changes like in the edges, with Ford and the Akura and
yeah,
Curran coming in and so forth. But for me, I gave him a 7.52, and it's a lot of guys were kind of like, will he even get back in? But he's an experienced international. Webby's, when someone said how awesome Tuaupiki played, his first comment was, "Man, Charnze is an international. He's a grand final playing for. He's coming back." So I knew that they'd bring him back, but I think he just like those defensive reads for me were a real annoyance because it's. We talked about this actually. I think this is one of our first conversations was about how the outside backs were getting abused by fans for the tries they were letting in, but we'd both spotted the
chain inside. Yeah. They were on the end of. They're not on a short chain. They were on the end of a short chain, man. That's what it was.
You got 5-on-2s or something. But I felt like Dallin's, he was in a couple of cases, he was coming in and unnecessarily and just giving guys a waltz round, and he got burned for speed as well, which was really surprising.
Yeah.
But I think that switch to fullback, he played way better than I expected he would in both the games he played there, and I think it gave him a bit of confidence. And when he came back, I would say last week, he ran with a more intensity, I think, than I've seen for the whole season. So, and he was actually making post-contact meters, whereas I felt like early in the season, he'd run hard, but he'd had a brick wall and stop. Or
that run against the Bulldogs where he got it off the 20-meter tap from Charnze, and it was like 25 post-contact meters. No one could get him down.
Yeah. So from that aspect, I thought 7.5 for him. That I still think there's those little mistakes, but at the moment, I think he definitely holds up a side for us. So I'm happy with him. And we've got Montoya. He's played 11 games.
Yeah, he's been great. Look, I want to give him 8.5. I think he's a victim of being moved to the centres.
Yeah.
And he's done an admirable job, but he's not your natural centre. But you know, if he stays on the wing with the numbers he's been doing, like 200 plus meters, his impact, like when he hits the ball up, man, he knocks people over. He runs with intent, and it was good actually seeing a set where you got Dallin running with intent, and then you got Montoya coming next. And then you're like, oh, man, we're getting a roll. And we just got a roll on against the Bulldogs. And I think that's where if you can get them both on the wings, that's where you can find that 1-2 punch with them kind of bringing us out of our own end. But, I think he's had a great season so far. I think it was right to sign on. I'm happy that he signed to 2025.
Yeah, very much.
I don't see too much diminishing returns for him. I think he maintains. But I think even maybe just going to the centres saw a few more quiet games from him. We expected a bit more from him.
The first one was pretty good when he just seemed to had a little bit more space to work with in that, the try set up for Kosi there where he fended off about 12 guys. But I just remember him running into Dom Young against the Knights in round one and he put him on his butt. I don't know what he did with him, like to his sternum, whatever. That guy stayed down for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's what I like. But I look at him as he's that guy that no one wants to tackle.
No.
He runs hard. He tackles hard. Is he the top 5, top 10 wingers in the comp? No, but he would do a top job in any team he was put in. So I think he's been our most consistent player over the past 2 years. Even in an underperforming team last year, he was outstanding. And like 8.5 for me. Just he feels like he's been a little bit quieter lately, but again, playing 11 games, man, and the amount of run meters, he'll be pretty fatigued. But I mean, if you look at the whole concept of the way we're using our outside backs, it's very Penrith-like, and it allows guys like Adam Fanua-Blake to have so much more impact because they don't have to do so many dirty yards, and I think that's going to really give us a lot of opportunities to win the forward battle in the back half of the season because our forwards won't be quite as gassed. So I like it, and I think it's always been one in the Warriors game since back in the Manu Vatavai days, having those big wingers and Fusiatua and Ken Maumolo.
Yeah,
they did it as well, but I don't think we had the centres to do it as well. So with those big guys in the centres and Charnze doing that, man, they eat up some meters. So
it was evident in the Bulldogs game. It was massive. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who was that team we got a try against. We got the ball on our own. It might have even been a 7 tackle set, and we just literally every one of our backs made like 20 meters,
Yeah,
and we just went marched straight up the field and then spun it wide, and we got the try. It's like, yeah,
yeah.
that's our
That was the one Adam did last week. We got Dallin, then Montoya, then Pompey with the leg drive, and then
yeah.
Adam finished it off. It was pretty cool.
Alrighty, man. Let's go to Kosi. Ed Kosi.
Yeah, I've given him I'll give him an 8. I think he's been massive. Ed, he's actually done pretty well on both wings. Look, you think of probably his numbers. Maybe he's done 3 on the left side, and then maybe the others on 7 on the right side. Yeah, and each side he's defended well. Apart from the Sharks game, I thought he had a shocker that one, but he actually got one on top of Mulatalo. I thought there was actually a really good battle. I
Yep.
think there was a big battle for his confidence, and
Yep.
you kind of saw a bit more from Ed in terms of like, oh, this kid has a bit of swag to him,
Yeah.
and he's built that swag up over time from last year from Melbourne where his confidence was shot
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
now where he's like definitely confident, putting on shots on Crichton, destroying guys. He's not
Yeah.
coming in to just stop them, or he wants to
That's a
kill them.
shot of the year, bro.
Yeah,
for
bro.
for us,
He wants to
especially
destroy
that
people. And
him
that
and that.
wasn't the Ed Kosi that was before. This is a new Ed Kosi under Webster. Yeah,
And it's quite interesting. You see some of these Pacifica boys like that. They just you stand next to them and they look like houses, but they're so kind of, I don't know. They almost feel like shy in their size or whatever. That I'm like, man, I'm only like 1.71 meters tall, bro. And I used to just love smashing into people and thinking, man, if I had another foot on top of me
yeah,
and
yeah,
another
yeah.
20 kgs, it's like, oh, I'd love to be in his shoes. But you could just see that Mulatalo game like kind of put a bit of mongrel out in him.
Yeah, it did.
And
It did.
and he's done it a few times since then as well. I think against the Storm there, got stuck into a couple of guys. So
Yeah, no, I
um,
love it. I love it.
I think he's probably going to be. We saw that I posted. We'll talk about it in the next episode of the question to the fans on all our different media about who
Yep.
their most improved player, and he was really well represented there. That I don't think anyone genuinely expected him to progress and maintain that spot as long as he did before he got the injury, based
Yes.
on the up and downs he's had in the past. So all credit to him, and I gave him an 8 as well. So
Cool.
hope he gets back soon. At the moment, it looks like round 16 he's coming back, which seems a mile away. But by the time we get back and past Brizzy, it'll only be 3 games away. So it's probably good for him to get a bit of a rest.
Yep.
Adam Pompey,
I was, I
all
was
11
thinking
games for
about
him.
yeah, I was thinking about Pompey and thinking I didn't even have him in the initial centres for the start of the year. I remember he missed one of the trials due to the Māoris game, and I totally
Yep.
forgot about him. And then I saw him in the Knights, the opening round. I was like, "What's Pompey doing here?" Because I thought it was going to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
Vailea and Viliami, or
yep,
something like that. And then no, he's proven that he's a solid centre. He has his flaws. I mean, there's some times when he has little lapses, but I think overall he has something about him, a bit of an elusiveness. I don't think people give him can't get a good read on him, and so they
right.
kind of just sort of just nod off for a little bit, and then Pompey comes up with something like an intercept we saw, and then
Yeah,
bowls over
and he had a bit
Valentine
of wheels for
Holmes.
that too.
He
Yeah,
has a bit of a stride once he gets into it,
yeah.
and then he bowls over Valentine Holmes. Destroys him, and
Same for Jesse Ramian, bro. Straight over the top of
yeah,
him and like gets
yeah.
the arms free.
And he steps Bradman best and scores these 2 tries off scrum bait. Like he's got this something about him that
Yep,
unassuming.
yep.
But then there's some little lapses. But I've always said his best
What other
ability was his
lapses?
availability.
What do you see as his lapses? Like, I
Oh, I think it's like I don't blame it fully on, but there's some communication things like those midfield, the crossfield bombs, and they
yeah,
fall in his area, and he either doesn't go up for it or someone he's not sure what the who's
yeah,
doing what,
yeah.
that type of thing. Those are and then there's some I've just some things like one-on-one things that I've said, you just missed a tackle there. But that's all centers; they all do it. But I think people have been too hard on him.
I
People
mean,
have got
his
this mindset
defensive
on him. Yeah.
efficiency, like his tackle efficiency, is up in the high 80s from
No,
memory.
he's
I think
good.
he's close. Yeah, he's
Yeah,
close to
he's real
90.
good.
which I think is one-on-one tackles, but I think it's like you say, the read sometimes maybe like he doesn't get credited for the miss. It's the guy outside him. But I gave him an 8 as well. He's odd because it's like, again, he's like Kosi. He seems like, he doesn't have that killer instinct. Like he just doesn't look like he
Yeah,
wants to hurt people. And if I was that big, I'd be, yeah. But you heard a lot, like, we didn't see a lot of him last year, but I heard a lot of stories about him, like carving it up for Redcliffe there. And what I feel is he used to be a bit, I don't know, just one dimensional. He
yeah,
seemed like he physically was plodding around the field, but this year I feel he's developed defend. He's
yes.
developed the ability to accelerate into the tackle a little bit more. He's developed that late little step, and he's really good at actually getting the ball away with 3 or 4 guys on him. So, and
Yeah, his
he's
distribution's good.
dominated some of the biggest centers in the comp. But I I I wonder what happens with him next year, because obviously he hasn't been signed and Montoya has. Um, yeah, I mean he's got. I feel like he's got a lot of potential, but he'll never be world class.
Yeah, I think.
Um,
Well, I've said he's got no outside speed like Avarillo. Like something like
yeah,
where centers with outside speed, it's a big part of their game. But then his tackle break numbers are huge. Like he can go into a
yeah,
contact area and he can get himself freed up. And you kind of think, oh, how can we
yeah,
use that more effectively? To help him. But yeah, I just think as a center that if we centers are needed for me need to have tackle. They need to have footwork. He's got footwork.
yeah,
Um, he's got distribution on the outside. But just sometimes he just lacks that speed to take someone on the outside on the one on
yeah,
ones.
yeah.
That's the world class guys can do that.
And I think that's probably like one of the things I'd say about all of our back five at the moment is we really lack that. Absolutely, when he gets through a break, this guy's gone speed.
Yeah,
Both
yeah,
him
I
and
agree.
Kosi have shown with their intercepts they were quite easily run down. I don't think Charnze has got that top speed anymore. I doubt RTS will as well. He'll have the fast acceleration, but I don't think he's linked to the field. So that's probably one thing I feel like we're definitely missing in our outside backs is that
Yes.
the the hammer or that Saab kind of speed that once they're gone, or the Fox. Now we just saw how easily
You
he got
can't
away,
teach
right?
speed, bro. You can't teach
No,
speed. It destroys
yeah,
you when it comes on the field.
and
Yeah.
we've got so much of it in the sevens and stuff. Um, anyway, Viliami, he only played the 2 games. It's kind of odd, right? I felt like he wasn't going anywhere until he did that calf that he keeps doing.
Yeah, it's been it's
Um,
been been frustrating. And it's gone quiet. That lead, it's like a detective lead. It's like it's
yeah.
a missing person. I haven't heard from him in ages.
Round
Whereas you
13,
hear
they
more about
say.
Barnett all the time. Like, yep, you can find Barnett, but
Yeah,
um,
round 13, they reckon.
round 13. Okay, oh,
Yeah,
well, a lot of people schedule. That's great. Yeah,
yeah,
up till that point, he was quite high on my radar. But I don't know. I've given him a 7 maybe because I've forgotten about I've
yeah. Me
forgotten
too.
about him.
It's like I, I think he was a lot. He reminded me a bit of Hiku, right? Like you don't he had that period at Manly where he was outstanding, but then he had a couple of quiet years with us.
Yeah.
And then he just started to be like that wily kind of experienced centre who doesn't do anything wrong. He makes his tackles, he coordinates his guys, he's got that little offload. But again, he's not the one making the massive breaks, but he put guys through holes and stuff. So I'm
Yes.
looking forward to him getting back, because I don't really feel like, you know, anyone's really nailed down that other side from Pompey. So
Yeah,
um,
and if you think there hasn't been many tries to Montoya on that edge, there's no one been
yeah,
feeding him the ball very well.
yeah,
And that's why I thought Viliami was great. His distribution was really good. We are missing that because I think Montoya is actually short of some
yeah,
heaps of tries. Because remember that Tigers game when he got what 3 or 4, and
yeah.
it was all Viliami just setting him up, just like bang, 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 and then we've been missing that.
I expect him to come back in as soon as he's fit, actually. But I mean, it's just, I guess it's an age thing, bro. I've had mates who start doing calves and they just don't stop. So anyway,
Yeah,
Viliami Vailea, he was my pick for breakout player of the year before the season started, based on what I'd seen from him last year. What have you made of him for his 5 games?
I said he was one of mine too. I thought this guy's got all the metrics to be one of the great centers. Even his speed is really good. He's got more speed than Pompey,
Yeah.
If you got them on a track, you'd be faster. A lot of these guys, they either hit walls or confidence is a big thing for our Pacific players, and if they lose confidence, it can diminish their whole game. And so I wonder if he's had his chances. I thought he had a good game against the Bulldogs. He scored that try. A few other flashy moments, but I wonder if I've heard reports that he's just dropped down, diminished a little bit. I've given him a 6.5.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I went 6. I mean, I think
yep,
he may be one of those guys that got through his younger years based on his size and his skill and his speed, and hasn't had to rely on his work ethic. Where you'll get a guy like Viliami, Viliami, who will have had to work for everything he got. And I just I heard a few whispers from the boys who are a little
yep,
bit more connected to me that it was a work ethic thing that got him dropped the first time. And standards are pretty hard to meet. And then you look at Schuster over at Manly there, right?
yeah,
All the skill in the world, but just maybe it's just a work ethic thing. But I feel like if you look at the guys that have played this year, he's got the
yep.
most X factor
He does. He
if
does.
he can get the work ethic, and maybe like being around RTS maybe helps him there. But yeah, I went 6 on
Yeah.
him purely on the fact I'm a bit disappointed, and like I was expecting a lot more.
Well, when he
Rocco
did the
Berry only
tackle on
played.
Dom Young was the tackle on Dom Young told me everything. We did the
Yeah.
reverse judo. He was hot. He was climbing like piggybacking into the try. I was like, nah, this guy's
Oh,
got to
that
go
one.
down,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah,
He's
yeah.
got to go down,
Oh,
bro. He's got to go back to cup, bro. Go back to
maybe
SG
it's
ball,
just
bro.
maybe you're scared of doing a hip drop by dropping down, bro.
He
Um,
did.
Rocco Berry, bro, he only played one game.
Yep.
What do you make of him?
Yeah, people have said good stuff about him. I thought he needs more reps. I think Vailea's had good 3 or 4 games. He probably needs the same to be able to build a profile on him. Hasn't blown me out of the water. I don't think he's done anything great, but he hasn't done anything too bad. But I did see his running numbers and he was quite low, 8 for 63. Whereas if I had Vailea on there, even with his flaws, Vailea usually pumps out 11 for 130 or
Yeah.
so. Different type of player. Can he be the defensive rock? But we don't really need a defensive rock right now. We need like a actual explosive X factor type player right now. So it's hard to kind of give him a grade. I've given him just a 6.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get. I mean, I'm a bit of a fanboy of him.
Okay. Yep.
Well, based on what he did in his first year of rugby league, right, learning to play rugby league in first grade during
Yep.
COVID, there, I just feel like he's a type of player we haven't seen at the Warriors for a
Yep.
long time. He's tall, he's lean, I think he's got those subtle skills. And honestly, like when he first came on, he reminded me of a very young Conrad Smith, who was never the flashiest guy, but man, he was a rock and he was great at making people around him look good. I think he's got a great legs tackle, which is a hidden art in rugby league these days.
Yep.
I feel like he needs to fill out a bit more, and you know, he's still really, really young and learning the game. That probably he'll play a lot of cup this year within our systems. They'll
Yes.
fill him out, and there's no reason he can't become maybe not getting a bit ahead of myself, but a Campbell Graham kind of player. They're about the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
height.
Yeah. Yeah.
That he just needs a little bit more meat on him.
Well, he came up against Alan Motti and it didn't look like he was
No,
out of place.
so I think defensively, and he's probably got enough wheels to hold it there. So I kind of feel like him and Vailea could be, if they both kind of develop, could be our long term, 3 or 4 years down the road kind of players. But
Yeah.
I'm glad we've got RTS. Though. I mean, we've just covered the centres there. That I don't feel like we've got grand final winning centres at the moment, and
No, we
having
don't.
a
We don't.
RTS in there is going to plug one side, but you'd have to hope on potential. Maybe Vailea is the guy to grow to be that other one. But RTS, how many more seasons he's got? So still, I think it's an area that we need to think about.
Yeah, it's either an area that you need to see if the development's coming through within the next 2 years, or do you go and buy a marquee centre? while these guys develop. Like you said, Rocco
Yeah.
Berry is probably 3 years away. He probably is 3 years away.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do in those 3 years? Yeah.
So you've got those guys who are like, the Crichtons or whatever are just, Panthers, man. How many outside backs could they just bring out of their factory?
Yeah, Tango as well. He's good.
So I think he's just a very unique Rocco Berry. That is a unique kind of physical type of centre compared to anyone else we've got in the club. I mean, if you look at the SG Ball boys, and if you look at like Moi, he's looks like he's got something.
Yep.
In the SG Ball. He's a very big boy for SG Ball.
Yeah,
and he's got a he reminds me a bit of Joey Leilua in some ways when he was playing well. What's the fellow's name? Jerry, not Jerry. Ali Lautiti's.
Yeah.
Leotaua.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of him, but yeah.
Just a couple of games I've seen from him, you can see he's got a little bit of something about him, but they're all very similar. They're young, they're raw, they're big, similar builds. None of them are breakneck speed. So, yeah, it's an area I still think we will probably be working on. But when we've got 5 teams next year, we'll have a few people to choose from.
Out. The profile of the club's going to be just insane. We're going to be talking about these 15-year-olds, and then the next group are going to come.
Well, they just see they had a bit of an article about that today. A bunch of the guys have signed
out
the Penrith system and stuff, so that's good to see. Okay, let's jump into the halves. So I've probably got this in the wrong order here, but we'll go for Volkman first, eh? Yeah, he's only played a couple of games, but I'm not sure if you've seen any of his cup games. What are you making of him?
Yeah, I feel for him. Everyone's reports on his cup games, he's just dominating and destroying, and I think it tells you that he's an out-and-out 7. So when he's come in to do that 6th role, it hasn't translated. And it's actually been disjointed, and I don't actually blame him. Right. I actually just think he's it's not in his skill set, and actually, if he had a preseason like a Tamaiti did with Shaun, maybe it'd be different. I think Tamaiti's kind of nailed what the profile is for that position in Webster's system, especially with SJ so dominant. But I think he's been admirable, bro. Like, he put in that kick and he scored off it. Like, yeah, he gave it a shot. Some of his kicks have been good. Some of his distribution, we haven't seen it, but I know he's got it.
Yeah.
I've given him a 7. Just I think he's come in and done a professional job. The games he's come in, we've won. So that adds to his,
I think you just see the true kids who've got it. Like, he might have been quiet in both his games, but that one chance that he had with those kicks, like one that he got back himself, and I'm trying to think of who scored off the other one. Who did he play against? Was it the Sharks?
Yeah, the Sharks one where he put in 4, and then Egan got the bounce off the head of.
Yeah. So it was, but so you can see he's got the ability to execute.
He does.
But you're right. Like, I watched him closely in the cup games I've seen, and he's a class above. Like, he played up against the grub. What's his name? From the Bulldogs.
Reynolds.
Reynolds, right? So he played him in the cup game and
destroyed him.
I think he showed more. He's just, you can see it. He's kind of like SJ is for the first team. He just owns it. His ability to put those little creative kicks or passes and things there. So I also worry a little bit because they're trying to develop Metcalf as a halfback as well, by the looks. So he played halfback for the SG, for the cup team. And the game he played against the Tigers, he wore 6, but Tamaiti said he played 7. So again, same as Tuaupiki, is he patient?
Yeah.
I hope so, because I think, he reminds me a lot of Stacey, bro. That little nuggety.
Yeah, he's got that build.
I mean, he's actually quite tall. He's taller than he looks like he's my height. No, like I said, I'm -71. I think he's like -78 or something. Yeah. So he's not as small as he looks. Short legs. Yeah, I gave him a 6. What I say, a 7, just based on what I saw in his cup as well. So, Maire Martin, he played 5 games back in round 15.
Yeah, man, I've given Tamaiti an 8 because, he's been a good foil for SJ in a way. I mean, he doesn't have the strongest kicking game. He's set up his outsides pretty well. He has a good cutout pass. His defense has been solid. I think for him was his 1%ers for me. He's very much bought into Webster's. He's actually a Webster type player if you really think it.
Right.
I thought the Knights game when he supported forward, that's what I said. We've been missing a support play. Tamaiti is that guy. Tamaiti is the guy that will follow through the play. If someone makes a line break, he's usually in the mix. It's just been unfortunate that he's gone down. I think if he'd stayed healthy, we might have been at 7-4 right now.
Yeah.
I do believe he's that pivotal because it allows Walker to go back to his role. But I like to give him an 8.
Yep.
He just done his job, and he's got that little. Yeah, he just really is bought in. Yeah.
He's one of those players who made me look at the game harder.
Yeah.
Because I know he was better than I was seeing. And I kind of got a
Yes.
little bit frustrated for the first couple of rounds, thinking, what's he doing? I'll talk about it with Marata in the next episode. That he's another one for me that they're doing more than I can see because they're so well rated players. But and you're right, it's the amount of times he's the first tackler on a kick chase.
Yes, he's right there.
The amount of times he's the guy who'll turn and chase someone down after they've made a break. So he's definitely that effort player that you just know you can rely on.
Yeah.
So I gave him an 8 as well, and probably deserved more. Had he played more, I agree, we would have won more, and he would have got more points. And I feel like it's an unusual position for him because he's not that big, and we're seeing a trend in the game that most 5'8" are like 6'3", built. They could go easily into the back row. Very physical players where he's not that big. He holds his own. He doesn't seem like he's blistering. He's just very, very solid is how I'd describe him without, and we're lucky that we've got SJ doing that. So I feel like if SJ went down, you'd need him to step up and be a bit more creative. And I think he showed when he had to kick, he can.
No, he can, yeah.
But maybe it's a coach-driven thing that SJ kicks as much as he does.
I think it is because I remember I listened to one of his Sens interviews and he was saying that the profile that 5'8" position is literally you work that blind side or that short side. If something's on, you figure it out, and then SJ does the majority of the other stuff. But I think he's actually with the ball that he's done quite a bit. I thought the Cowboys game was one of his best games. He got Montoya a couple of tries. And then, I just wish we had seen more. I really think there would have been we would have had a bit more in the tank maybe in this last couple
the
of
good
games.
Thing about it, though, is being a bone, it generally, once it's healed, it's healed. It's not like a repeat injury or like those soft tissues like with Metcalf when he comes back and with Viliami, it's like you're just constantly waiting for them to come again. Like you see, like Travojevic at the moment, you can see he can't stretch out because he's just waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
So Tamaiti, I think once he's back, which is good. And again, if we're in a better position than we thought we'd be in, and as these guys start to come back in fresh, and we're going to be up against teams post-Origin, so we've got like the likes of South just off the back of Origin, when a lot of their guys are going to be so fatigued. But I think because some of our key guys, like if Barnett comes back, they won't be. So Tamaiti's one of those.
Yes.
But what happens when Metcalf comes back first and goes nuts?
That's what I was going to ask you. How do you think the season would have gone? Because we saw what Metcalf did in the Tigers game, and we think, holy shit, this guy is.
Yeah.
We've got something here because he was directing the team around, and I was thinking, okay, if we get this guy with Shaun, but we never saw it. How do you think the season goes if Metcalf actually starts?
I don't know because again, Viliami Martin's in it. He's played international. He's experienced, and it seems to fit the mantra of those guys get the first nod, right?
Yeah.
So Metcalf, maybe he played cup. I have no idea how Webby would have actually played that. But say Tamaiti went down week 1 and Metcalf came in and played the whole 11 games with SJ. and plays to the ability I think he can. I'm sorry, Tamati.
Yeah.
Which kind of, I know he's dominant. Well, let's get to SJ, right? He's dominating for us, but they've got a backup plan if he does go. 11 games from him, man. What did you end up scoring him?
Man, well, for me the peak was 9. I didn't want to give guys a 10, but I thought he's been pretty much unreal. I would say I'm going to go 9.5. He's been this is the best version of SJ I've seen. Because it's a different type of SJ. It's evolved SJ. It's actually a different one. SJ before was more erratic. I mean, he done that kick on the weekend. I thought was just a little bit erratic. That one where he tried to repeat the same play to DWC. But he's not doing it hardly as much as what he used to. And I think he's found a good balance with Webby. He's found the right setup that actually suits his style of play right now, and he's been the key to everything still. And he's been holding it down on his own for the last 4 or 5 weeks. 9.5 is I'm up there.
Yeah, bro. Same for me. I couldn't give him a 10 purely because he's had a couple of brain explosions.
Yes, that's the ones I talked about.
Kick he put on that the end of that line break the other day. Not finding touch with his kick. So you see now
that one, they're not.
The commentators are like, bro, why is he only kicking 20 meters? It's like I'm getting that up 20 rows back. But I feel like for him, this is the most consistent he's played a season that I've ever seen him play. I think, his star moments back in the day were amazing, but he would go 2 or 3 weeks between his big games, right? But he hasn't had a down game. And I feel like I've been robbed in my sporting life that if he'd been able to play with this consistency throughout his career, and when he had that amazing gas, if he was playing this consistently, I don't think there's even a discussion as to who's the best New Zealand half. He would be so far ahead of Stacey, but Stacey played so many years of consistent footy, right? So SJ's best games has been amazing, but this year, who's a better half than him? Who's played better footy than him for 11 rounds this season?
I can't think of it. right now. And I want to say no one. Not because I'm being biased. Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Cleary's been injured, but like Cleary or Reynolds, I would say would be the only ones who come close.
But they haven't had the same thing. Like they haven't had the injuries or the scheduling. Just every kind of thing to kind of put them out of potentially. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for him, I think the biggest thing that is he missed that tackle in the first couple of minutes against the Knights, that try, and I'm like,
you're thinking, that same old.
And it's almost like, I don't know if that was just the thing, like he got a grudge on his shoulder or whatever, but ever since then, like his tackle efficiency is like 97%, I think.
It's high. He's not leaking anything in this channel.
But he's hitting, and he's hitting one-on-one on forwards running at him, and he hasn't been run over once that I can recall. So
he's actually capable. Yeah, you think of if you actually think of SJ, and if he played like this his whole career, he's actually stronger than what he puts himself. Like he can do those tackles. I thought he was just playing. He was mentally weak. He was mentally weak in those years gone by because he'd arm grab everything, but now he's actually sticking his tackles.
But he's put on some size, bro. He
is
with his wings and. So I mean, maybe that was just it. He just thought, like, I'm going to have to step up, and maybe Webby said to him, you're going to have to get, because everyone said that he'd shied off contact last year, right? And that's when they reckon that halves are done. He didn't. He stepped up. So for me, 9.5, and I couldn't have asked for more. Yeah. No one's perfect, and if you look at his error rate in the past, he's exceeded that. So he's the one of the most improved players this season, based on what he played like last year. And he was playing pretty well at the Sharks before he came back. And I think COVID did really mess up with him because he's a very emotive person, and
Yeah, he is.
being away from his family, and I know what that's like. So um, so we've been through the backs, and we've been chatting now for almost an hour and a half, bro. This is awesome.
Then we better, yeah.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up, but just maybe
Yeah,
if you could give a summary of, so, okay, I think, this is where our backline sits as far as the NRL goes at the moment, as
yeah.
far as, is it a top ability to compete at top four? Is it a top eight? And what's the thing you think that what we can improve on this season with who we've got as a finish off?
Yeah, I think the back line is it has its strengths. I think the carrying is huge. The way our boys can carry out of our end is huge. It's a very Penrith type model, but it does a lot in terms of field position. I think SJ's had a great kicking game because our guys have been putting him in good spots to put those bombs on a dime. Like the guy can just put everything on a dime, really, and he has been. So we've been getting good. We've been playing that kind of grinded out style. I think our guys kind of suit that. Like we've talked about, none of our guys have blistering speed. So the actual grinded out style is probably the best for our play style. I think yeah, I think they've done really well. I only think from an actual collective thing, I noticed something with the Storm games and even the Roosters is that the play style that we play, it's a style that you actually have to be in the lead. If you're in the lead, it's good. But I found when we played the Storm, once they got in front, they grinded it out with us, and it's kind of like, well, it became
Right.
predictable. So I just think in that element, you need X factor. We don't
Yeah.
quite have it right now, but once we get it, I strongly believe we'll go on to do even better than what we probably scheduled to do. That was my only nitpick in terms of the actual styles, that up against those top four teams, they can actually grind it out with you. Like I felt the Storm actually like,
Yeah.
oh well, you want to kick it to us? Oh, we'll kick it back to
Yeah.
you, and
Yeah.
we'll
And
do up. Yeah.
that's the point I reckon you've got there, is that I think we can grind it out against the bottom teams and know that we'll
Yes.
come back and get it over them in the final quarter on fitness, and discipline, but you can't bank on doing it against the top four sides. And I think
No.
all three of those games kind of proved that to us. But we saw that when we got our creativity right, we could create opportunities. So I feel like we really do lack individual X factor, but we make up for it in structure and
Yeah.
playing as a collective. Whereas if you look at Souths, take Latrell out of there, take
Yeah.
Cody Walker out of there, take two guys out, and what have they got? They rely so much on, X factor, pull out every ass, like
Yeah.
non-structured points. Which I think if you could add that to us, mate, literally, if you put Latrell into our side, um, a guy like him in there, or you put Fox on one of our wings, instantly that one person takes us up a level to a genuine top four team. I think we can beat any top four team. I
Yeah.
think if we had all of our best players on the field, we can match anyone. But um, you look at the Roosters, you look at Panthers, you look at the Rabbitohs, probably Brisbane, even the Dolphins.
Yep.
You'd think that their backlines are better than ours.
Yeah.
Probably Manly as well if they play to their potential. But luckily for us, a lot of these teams aren't playing to their potential. So I think, yeah,
Yep.
and we'll talk about this in the next episode. It's just like
Yep.
you love all of these guys, you love the way they're working, but I think we need to, our final step at the end of this next episode will be to think, okay, who do we really need to bring in here to take us to a premiership? Because I think
Well,
we're
I see. Yeah.
probably two on top of RTS short.
Yeah, we are.
Um, and
I
one of
thought
them
this
may be
recruitment. Yeah.
Metcalf.
I think it may be Metcalf, and we need to see it. Like we're all dying to see the Metcalf element and how it looks. We've just been robbed of it, I think.
Yeah,
But it takes time. Good
Yeah.
things take time. But yeah, you're probably like the Bunty for a role. If you can upgrade that to a genuine, and then me and you have talked about actually getting like a who is that guy, a Moses Sully type, or that bigger,
Bigger back row,
robust
yeah.
back rower that can break on his own and offload
Yeah.
post post
Viliami kick
contact.
out, bro. Put him in there. And
Yeah, if you nail those two, we're in for a shot.
yeah.
I do believe that. It's just I think this recruitment period, the last recruitment that they did for this season was great. If
The
they
year
can nail
before,
the
bro,
next
was Aaron
one,
Penny. Aaron Penny, I think, was the only player we recruited the year before that, wasn't it?
yeah. So whatever they did a great job getting Walker and all those guys.
Yep.
But if they can nail it on the head for this next window, I mean,
Yeah.
RTS is great, but we need, like you said, two or three more after that.
And I think we'll lose a couple of guys that we don't want to lose over the next year or so, and I hope the fans can understand that this is a puzzle that has half made when Webby took over. So anyway, my mate,
Yep.
we'll wrap it up there and look forward to carrying on in episode 2 when we get into the forwards there. There's a lot to get excited about there as well.
Yeah, there is now.